Hey everyone and welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today's topic will be a bit of a yap session mixed with hopefully an understandable messaging of the imperfections of K-pop culture. The vibes and the plans for this video is kinda like put a finger down if you've done this, with just 5 ideas relating to how K-pop fandom culture can contradict itself. I'm not sure where the inspiration for this video came from, but I just feel like it's long overdue to reality check the K-pop fandom culture that has evolved to what it is now, while also emphasizing the importance of just not letting K-pop have that much of a chokehold on you. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense or makes a bit more sense as the video continues. And so I guess before I start, I'd appreciate it if you can like and subscribe to my channel. But without further ado, let's start off with the first contradiction.
When we pull up, you know it's a shutdown.
Despite wanting to protect our faves from the toxicity of the K-pop industry, K-pop stans seem to not realize that they intentionally and unintentionally contribute to the toxicity that makes the experience bad from different perspectives. The perpetuated fan wars over discourse and arguments lead to such toxicity that, frankly, the K-pop idols that they're trying to quote-unquote protect wouldn't even endorse it. Like, name one idol who thinks an eye for an eye is the solution for such trivial things. And sometimes it all stems from a small but loud minority of people that certain fans can't seem to let go of and must insert themselves everywhere. What's wild is that there is even internal conflicts within fandoms, and no, this isn't related to solo standing, which can be a whole topic in itself. From experiences that I've read, there seems to be some who differentiate themselves by furthering what they see as quote-unquote authentic fans. Like, if you aren't supporting the comeback by doing this, then you aren't a real fan. Like, what? Hopefully this is just 12y behavior, and that's the real reason why they have so much time to be doing things like that, because I don't know about them, but I have a job. I touch grass, and there's so much in life that I also want to be doing that shouldn't be neglected so that I can revolve my life around just K-pop. I feel like parts of this toxicity does stem from a level of parasocialism in which idols are coddled or viewed with a closer relationship than what is actually had with the fans. This leads to fans being a little too emotionally invested, which is how we see such passionate back and forths between people. I think one misconception is that the negative sides to parasocialism encompasses sasang vibes, but it really encompasses a lot more that we might unintentionally fall under. I do realize that the marketing of K-pop does inadvertently sell the concept that may lead to parasocialism, but it really comes down to having to clock that and ensure that you realize it's a part of their job and not actually reality. I mean, this might even explain the sense of entitlement that is felt by fans, with the whole Chapel Roan discourse being a good example of how out of touch some people have become with the treatment of artists. All this to say, toxicity is something that will probably never disappear, as it is an emotion that is no different to any other general emotions felt within daily life. I mean, all industries have some form of toxicity, so it's not like K-pop would be a special case in completely removing it. However, it really makes me wonder, what if we remove the parasocialism aspect, even just a bit? Like, how less toxic would fans be, considering there would be a greater disconnect in fans feeling too involved within K-pop like that.
Tick, 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 boom. 눈물이 뚝뚝뚝 drop.
I want to say it's self-explanatory, the ethical issues that may arise from debuting minors, considering the K-pop industry and its culture. I mean, the industry does not discriminate based on age. And so, even if you're a minor in the trainee system or having debuted, this won't excuse them from the long schedules, the diet culture, the beauty standards, or even the potential hate from K-pop listeners. This isn't even the tip of the iceberg, and so hopefully this is collectively felt that minors should not be brought up in this environment. Despite this, here we are supporting groups with minors in them. In the most ideal of situations, K-pop companies would feel the impacts of boycotts from groups with minors in them, and this would influence future debuts to not include them. However, the likelihood of this seems unrealistic with many factors at play. Like, firstly, what does grown idols truly mean? Legality-wise, most countries state 18 as the age of adulthood, while Korea has it at 19. However, how different would the idols truly be mentally in comparison comparison to their legal adult age. I mean, there isn't going to be a noticeable shift in maturity the minute they turn 19. So then what truly is the distinguishing factor of being an idol that would be considered an adult? Then to that, this whole not supporting minors debuting in a group indirectly just means you should only support K-pop groups with adult members, which can also have layers to that too. Like, does it become okay to stan a group once they've all become an adult? Or would you still technically be contributing to the debuting of minors because you've supported the group which initially had a minor at debut and thus may validate the company's decision of making the group once they've achieved more success and thus by proxy the debuting of minors? There are so many inferences that can be made from certain decisions, and so it feels like boycotting any groups that debuted minors with them would be the most ethical option. However, this doesn't stop listeners from turning what was thought to be a black and white issue into more of a subjective perception, as I've also seen some people justifying standing certain groups because they only have one member that is a minor in comparison to others that might have more. Like, I get the perception of this, but at the end of the day, a minor is a minor, so it might make you feel better that it's only one of them, but it's basically justifying the better of two evils, where at the end of the day, both situations are technically not it. But yeah, we can't really change what's been done once they've debuted, and so the ball is ultimately in our court as to whether we want to support them and the associated groups. Unless it's really plain and simple in that you just boycott all groups with minors in them through and through, what is said might not actually reflect how we act. I've already done a video highlighting my initial thoughts on the vocals of LE SSERAFIM and Kim Sejong's comments on Universe Ticket, which basically hasn't changed in terms of how I perceive the importance of skills in general. I mean, I feel like there is a spectrum of reasons to standing an idol or a group. It really isn't just skills alone that makes them stand out. It's a definite factor that can get people's attention for sure, but long-term wise, it doesn't mean much unfortunately. As a result, this kinda explains the reasoning for how companies may choose trainees who get to debut. I mean, MX is a good example of a great group with great skills, and yet we don't see the translation in the success equating to their skill level in comparison to the skill levels of other K-pop groups. Then to add to that, there is subjectivity in ranking skill levels, which further complicates this discourse on skills. Like, what would be considered the bare minimum, and why does it mean different things for different people? Add the toxicity aspect of K-pop into the mix, and then we get the aggressive opinions that lead to fans defending their idols, and just like that, this explains how the perpetual loop of nothingness happens. In saying that, I don't believe that we shouldn't criticize idols from what might be valid and noticeable issues. However, the line begins to blur through the way fans speak on this. There is always many ways to say something, and for those who choose to deviate from the focal point, I mean, literally why? Yeah, I know that there's freedom of speech, and so you're entitled to say whatever and however you want, but do the skill levels really make people that mad? Like, is it that serious that their comments always seem to add zero value towards the issue and more value towards engagements from the back and forth between fans defending them? I mean, using real life examples of receiving complaints about your lack of skills in doing your job. An unfortunate thing to experience for sure, but now what if that person also starts talking about your family, your parents, the way you talk, or anything that doesn't relate to the job that you do? Now that's basically how criticism is being viewed at the moment within K-pop. I feel like if we were able to form criticism solely based on the issue, there is no other ways for it to be perceived as bullying unless the defenders consider all negativity as bullying. With that, I mean, I don't know. Can't really do much besides letting them live in their Delulu world. But yeah, back to the overall arching topic of skills. I think ultimately you do you in terms of determining the factors that might wow you, but there are two afterthoughts of considerations to really think about. Firstly, are there other reasons why you have stand a group beyond skills? And if not, could the group just not be marketed towards you? And so feel free to view them from afar, but do you need to continue engaging with a group that just might not be your vibe?
Yeah, I'm like ice cream. Got you wishing you could. You can try me. Only if you've been good.
This section could really intertwine with the previous section about skills, but the only additional thing I would talk about regarding this is that I recently replied to a comment talking about how the K-pop industry expects perfectionism, and yet it really isn't that prevalent with the focus on vocals as the example. I mean, what doesn't help is the skill expectation gap felt throughout the industry, as we are constantly used to the facade of perfectionism, where backing tracks or live ARs help give the illusion of authenticity or perfectionism, and thus we assume that's also how they would sound a cappella too. This is one of the aspects that kind of lead to the constant need to be perfect in order to maintain the illusion while also feeding the general public the idol image, which I feel like we kind of forget about that term we use on them. Idol literally refers to a person that gets placed up on a pedestal that is admired. Like, imagine that's the general definition of your job. I mean, this might even explain the whole selectivism in perceptions where fans will blame the companies regarding anything bad happening with them, but then will praise the idol for anything good that's happening to them instead of the company. The difficulties in maintaining this image where people only want to see the best, but also will then forget that they only see the highlights of the idol's life. There have been some slight breakdowns of this perfectionism image, but it still seems to come with the territory of toxic discourse. I mean, the two recent Hype documentaries are examples of highlighting bits of the authentic experience of K-pop, and yet one was ripped to shreds for the emotions shown, and the other documentary created discourse and internal fandom conflict despite the clear resolution that was had. No nuance allowed, just apparent unacceptance from viewers in regards to the documentary and its portrayal of the life of these certain groups. Obviously, documentaries do come with the territory of crafting a narrative, and thus we should definitely be wary of what might be real and what might just be theatrics. But it's the same way people were just taking clips here and there and creating their own narratives like they knew the full story just because of the same documentary. I mean, even the whole social justice aspects to K-pop gets so diluted into the social justice Olympics. Instead of actually placing emphasis on the social cause at hand, it's more of a competition to compare the different levels of activism from idols while crucifying the certain idols who may not partake in it. These comparison games just show how little care is actually given towards the cause, and it's all a facade to fake this moral high ground that they think that them and their groups actually have. What makes this even more strange is the need for certain fans to validate their own opinions, because what happens if the idols actually don't agree with you? I mean, is that something you want to hear or are okay with accepting? Also, what if they don't even know what they're saying and just basing it off what the majority of people are saying just to appease the crowd? Would that be acceptable? Because that's essentially what happens for most people, because yes, people can sympathize for the issue, but how many people will actually put things into action? All this to say, everyone, and I mean everyone, including idols, aren't perfect. Just because they're marketed to be this perfect person doesn't mean they actually are. We truly don't know them like that, and so forming these expectations and emotional ties, I mean, it's just big yikes, not gonna lie. And finally, the most recent factor that seems to fuel the most conversations on social media, but also maybe I'm looking at the wrong places too. If it's not analyzing group comebacks, then there's major discussions being had about the controversies, which is another factor that continues to perpetuate the toxicity as words get thrown around willy-nilly. I mean, during the 2020s era was when we were seeing so much Uno reverses to situations where people were so boldly taking things as fact until the other side would come out. We would then temporarily learn our lessons to wait for both sides to get an understanding of the situation, but that would go in one ear and out the other, as another K-pop controversy would see the K-pop community being reactive and getting blindsided once again, making us look like whole clowns. I mean, with the recent two big controversies, I don't want to delve that deep into the nitty-gritty of each case, but let's take the principles of how to interact with things coming out about them. Like, firstly, where is the room for investigations to be done? The really short attention span society leaves no room for waiting, as people foam at the mouth as they want to make conclusive opinions on situations that they really shouldn't be. It's just a lot of speculations on speculations on speculations. In no way does this mean you can't discuss or form opinions based on what is initially reported, but I feel like like some K-pop listeners lose grip on reality and seem to treat all of it as fact. Like, there is a clear difference between fact, opinion, and allegations. But does this get applied correctly? Not really. However, there is a complete 180 when it comes to people's faves because it's instant guilty verdict for everyone else besides their faves. All of a sudden, it's intensified critical thinking, correctly applying the terms allegations, facts, and opinions. It's waiting for more information and statements to hopefully be right that their faves would never, which major parasocial red flags because what do you truly know about them? It's downplaying the severity of the issues and it's forgiving them thinking that should be it and now we should move on from this. There's just so much ways that controversies are mishandled from a viewer's perspective in reacting to the information that is reported. I mean, even when something bad actually happens, misinformation still gets thrown around, which gives partial valid indefenses for the perpetrators because certain people want to create their own narratives that have no factual validity to it. What's disgusting about this is that it just distorts any victim's experience in favor of what's fun to gossip about. Then you also get delusional fans who leverage using this misinformation as factual substance that not everything may be true because certain people gave room for this to happen by making stuff up and jumping to conclusions. What's kind of scary is how headstrong some people get, especially when the degree of connection is so far away that I question how they can have such conviction in what they say, even if it may be hot garbage. Very few things are black and white if there's no actual evidence. There should be nuance allowed when it's all just hearsay, because how can one person's statement be more credible than the others when it's statement against statement? Like, obviously, we want to believe all alleged victims, but let's also not throw away common sense and critical thinking in pursuit of looking morally superior by blindly believing everyone. Having a little bit of skepticism or apprehension in allegations that are all hearsay should ultimately be an approach to be taken to reduce the sensationalism of controversies. However, I feel like a certain chunk of people aren't ready for that conversation. Final thoughts. I mean, K-pop, the fandom culture, and even the industry standards all have their flaws that could make many people unable to give K-pop a try. And yet here we are still supporting all of this through our consumption of K-pop. There's definitely more that could be said, but I feel like I've already said enough to convey my messaging regarding the contradictions and hypocrisies of us consuming K-pop. I feel like it's kind of obvious, but I'll just still state it. I definitely wouldn't have all my fingers up by the end of this video. And so here's another hypocrisy of me making a video like this, and yet I do one of these things. I think it just comes down to, unless it's something that's illegally bad, then you should really just self-evaluate and do things for yourself because no one's perfect, and so why should you let someone dictate your vibes towards K-pop? Obviously, this is just a generalized statement as there are nuances to not letting someone dictate your perception of K-pop. The subjectivity of K-pop will always leave room for people to not be in agreement with how you may perceive things, and so ultimately, just kind of find your environment to enjoy K-pop. Remember to stay grounded in reality and just dip when you have to because hopefully K-pop shouldn't be consuming through your life like that. But yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching and let me know your thoughts about these 5 contradictions, any other contradictions that kind of baffle you, or even just your general K-pop community experience. Where I'm from, the K-pop community is still kind of growing, and so most of my K-pop interactions have been pretty positive, but also happen mostly because of this channel, which has been great interacting with different people on K-pop related topics that I want to talk about. It's definitely a vibe here, so to the people that watch or even comment on my videos, I truly do appreciate it. But yeah, the next video I plan to do will either be a Black Swan retrospective look on the Fatu and Leia situation, just because of the recent documentary, which feels like it could potentially have a lot more to explore, but also my opinions about that situation might not change, so I'll just have to watch that and see whether a video can be made. The other topic I had in mind was maybe an Edmix Why I'm Worried About, which I would say they definitely aren't in line with the idols that I've done videos on before, but they just don't seem to have consistent success despite the clear recognition of talent and skills. Also, I still have that Mamamoo solo video, which I kind of don't know how to go about that, but I still plan to look into that a bit more. But yeah, if you're interested in any of these topics, then please like and subscribe to keep up to date, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!